Y'all ready for this? Welcome to Sports Kid Drama Kid. I'm Jim. I'm the Sports Kid.
I'm Andi. I'm the Drama Kid.
Andi, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty
As
good.
if we didn't just spend the whole entire thus
people
far
don't know.
day together.
People don't know.
People don't know.
They can just assume that we only exist on these microphones.
It's true.
If you'd like to support our show, you can do that on Patreon.
You sure can. It's patreon.com/SKDK pod. We've got extra episodes, bonus episodes over there for you, or if you can just want to support.
Thank you to those who have already done that and who are over there. We'll have more Patreon reversal episodes soon. Just had a good Shakespeare one.
We sure did.
Where Andi tried to teach me Shakespeare for the first time.
A little bit. A little bit.
A little bit. Or just like get me to get it, I guess.
I get you to, I don't know, at least appreciate that like it can be like fun and cool.
Yeah, and I think I like intellectually know that.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to get into the language.
Intellectually know that football is fun and cool, but
Exactly.
hard for me to get into the language.
People like it for their own reason. Exactly. Okay. So, Andi, today we're going to be talking about the life of a baseball legend.
Okay.
With the Olympics behind us, sadly, baseball is one of the main sports happening right now.
Sadly.
Yeah. Along with the WNBA season. So that's more fun.
Yes.
So baseball it is, but this is a baseball story with way more drama in it than baseball.
Nice.
Sort of like our Pete Rose one, where it's like it's mostly behind the scenes stuff.
Sweet.
And that is the life and personality of George Steinbrenner. Andi, what, if anything, do you know about George Steinbrenner, Yankees history, or I'll even take New York City history? Anything related to the Steinbrenner name?
Well, the first thing I was going to say is I know who John Steinbeck is.
The author?
The author? I don't know anything. I don't know who this person is. I've never heard of them. You said they have something to do with the Yankees.
Yes.
I know that the Yankees are one of the two New York baseball teams, the other one being the Mets.
That is correct. The Yankees are in the Bronx Bombers.
Oh, the Bronx Bombers. I have heard that before. I mean, New York City is where Broadway is.
Yeah. That'll be relevant.
I don't know. I'm assuming he was either a player or an owner, coach.
Yeah, he was an owner.
Oh,
He was an owner of
nice.
the Yankees, which is the most prized franchise other than the Cowboys
They're
in America.
They're big.
So it's a very similar sort of ownership situation to like a Jerry Jones.
Got it.
Like a big personality owning a big team. But
Yes.
the similarities kind of end there.
The Yankees are also like big rivalry team, or like
Yeah,
no?
well,
I feel like when people, it's very divisive when someone says they're a Yankees fan.
yeah, because like I mean, if you're from New York and you're from that area, you're a Yankees fan. People, probably hate you, but they respect it. But everyone else is kind of like, oh my God, you're a Yankees fan, similar to if you're a Cowboys fan in California or something.
I see. Okay.
Like everyone, like the Yankees are a brand, like probably globally, they're probably the biggest brand in terms of like hat sales and stuff like that for baseball. I don't really know that. I'm talking out my ass, but I would assume the Yankees.
I can pull up the logo from memory, which
Yeah.
actually says something about their branding.
So that is the thing that you know. So you don't know anything about Steinbrenner or how he was as a Yankees owner. You didn't know he was an owner.
I didn't know he was alive.
Yeah. Okay. Great. This is actually awesome because this one and I think the next one I'm planning are going to be kind of back to basics. Like you will know nothing about this guy.
I love knowing nothing.
Go again. Okay. So George Steinbrenner grew up in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. His father, Henry, was a tough disciplinarian and owned Kinsman Marine Transit, a business that was passed down through the family over the years. And that's like a shipbuilding company. So I read Bill Madden's, or parts of Bill Madden's The Last Line of Baseball, which is like the big Steinbrenner bio.
Okay.
And in there, they talked about how his father was a tough disciplinarian and sort of made George like work from a young age. This is like that classic sort of like bootstrappy.
What period
thing.
of time are we talking about?
He was born in 1930. So this is like, as he's a teen,
Got
probably
it.
like 40s.
Got
1940s.
it. Got it.
Yeah. And so he's like got those stories of like pulling himself up by his bootstraps and selling chickens and eggs. Like his dad got him a chicken and he sold the eggs and he's an entrepreneur.
Wow.
That's that classic sort of thing. You hear those myths of the old businessmen of how
I went door to door with chickens.
We've talked about this before, where everyone who owns things from their family sort of has a story about how they actually didn't just get it from their family.
Yes.
But yeah. So some of his education and early interests, he was sent to Culver Military Academy at 14, sort of stemming from his father's disciplinary vibe.
Not the Culver's Military Academy.
Oh my God. So a better brand of bombs makes a Butterburger better. Or something. He was a big Cleveland baseball fan growing up. He attended Williams College in Massachusetts.
Oh. Tiny liberal arts school.
Yeah, he was involved in the band and the glee club, and he performed a dual piano act with a friend while in college. Yep.
He did dueling pianos?
Dueling pianos. His friend in college named Jack Horner said he was a tenor and he was distinguished.
A distinguished dueling pianos tenor?
Yes.
Who then went into baseball?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm gonna
What a
play.
disappointment.
We're gonna skip ahead to when he owns the Yankees, having not told you how we got there yet. To read a little passage from
The biography.
And this is about him playing the organ at Yankee Stadium. And it just sort of, I'm mentioning it here because we're mentioning his glee club roots.
Yes. Steinbrenner never made much of his musical prowess, even though his friends and family said playing the organ at home. He had a home organ?
I guess so.
Don't they have to be like structurally built into the space
organ
that they're in?
All
right.
The smaller organ.
All right, fine. Chill out. It wasn't that big an organ, Andy. Okay. Steinbrenner never made much of his musical prowess, even though his friends and family said playing the organ at home was one of his favorite forms of leisure. For the most part, his Yankees employees were unaware of this side of him. Eddie Layton, the longtime Yankee Stadium organist, was practicing in the solitude of an empty stadium on the day before the Yankees were to open a season when suddenly he felt a shove. "Move over," Steinbrenner ordered. The startled Layton got up and made way for Steinbrenner to slip behind the organ. "What's this, George?" Layton said. "This," said Steinbrenner, "is how you play the organ. You go walk around the stadium and see how the sound is, and then come back here." Layton began to walk around the stadium, first along the loge level and then to the upper deck, all while listening in amazement to the Yankee owner's riffs. Layton remembered being particularly taken aback when Steinbrenner launched into one of his own signature Yankee, quote, rally songs, Chopin's Tarantelle. It was as if Steinbrenner was letting him know that even at the organ, he was the boss.
So he joined the Air Force after college and attended Ohio State University for a master's degree in physical education. And he became deeply involved with Ohio State football while he was there. He met his wife, Joan, in college there, or in the master's program or whatever, in 1956. And he studied at OSU for only 1 year before pursuing football coaching. He was actually an assistant at Northwestern University as his first coaching job.
I'm going to go ahead and go out on a real limb here and say that this is a man who maybe had some sort of attention issue because he seems, I'm saying this as someone who personally struggles.
And then after that, he coached running backs at Purdue.
Okay.
And then in 1957, so he like does his little master's degree, he's going to coach football thing. His father then sort of puts his foot down and says, "You have to join the family shipping business." In 1957. Like, we want you to come home and
got it. So it wasn't just like, don't be creative. It was like, don't do anything other than...
Yeah, like you're going to continue this business. He, in his role there, like when he started taking over, shifted the focus from ore shipping on the Great Lakes to grain shipping on the Great Lakes. And they had huge success. These old jobs are what boomers think modern jobs are, like making high-level decisions about shipping grain instead of metal and then making millions of dollars.
Yeah. In reality, it's just sending a whole bunch of emails that are like, I'm pretty sure I said this in a previous email.
Yeah. So after becoming the chairman and CEO of American Shipbuilding Company in 1967, so we're fast forwarding like 10 years of him working there and getting more and more clout at the family company.
Shipping more and more grain.
Yeah, until he's running it fully.
Barley.
Wheat. Everything in the game of pit.
Teff. That's an ancient grain.
It is.
I think.
So after he became CEO, he started lobbying extensively in Washington, D.C. because he wanted to get better deals for his company, which is part of being CEO of these big companies.
Side note, we don't have time to get into this, but I can't believe that lobbying is legal. Anyway.
Yeah. We can't go into lobbying as a concept right now. But yeah. He developed close friendships with prominent Democratic lawmakers like Ted Kennedy. I promise we're not going to talk about grassy knoll conspiracies. They're just part of the cast of Steinbrenner's life. Okay.
I mean, if you talk about the history of America, the last century, the Kennedys come up.
They're there. So the lobbying efforts paid off, and the Merchant Marine Act of 1936 was amended to include Great Lakes shipping, benefiting his company because he got the people to do that stuff in Washington.
Man, this sounds like such a boring job.
Yeah. The act established federal subsidies for the construction and operation of merchant ships, previously only for ocean ships. Now it included subsidies for lake ships.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yep. So he bought the company officially in 1967.
From his dad?
Yeah. And by 1972, the company had sales of more than 100 million. So he's rich. Super rich.
Mm-hmm.
Now that George was very successful, had shipping money, he's hobnobbing with the elites in Washington.
Yes.
He's able to use some of that money to pursue passion projects, the way rich aristocrats used to throw around their money to bring new art and culture into the world, like you guys do on our Patreon.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And one of these passions for Steinbrenner was an investment in sports teams. He always wanted to buy a baseball team, the Cleveland baseball team specifically, but he started in basketball in a league called the NIBL with a team called the Cleveland Pipers. Yeah. He bought the Cleveland Pipers of the NIBL in 1960. The NIBL was this little league that was founded in 1947 to enable U.S. mill workers a chance to play basketball.
Cute.
Yeah. The league was founded by industrial teams sponsored by large companies and made up of their employees. Yeah, they didn't join the NBA. They were a different league.
It's like when you have like a playful like baseball tournament against other people of your profession.
Yeah. Oh, this is a funny story I didn't think of until now. So when I was in college, I played one summer of frat softball, but we joined a local Madison, Wisconsin area league that was like a men's league as our frat team because the guys were like, oh, this is real softball. We should go out into the suburbs a little bit and play in a real league, which was a cool thing. It was a nice field and stuff. The teams there were like guys that had played baseball their whole life or softball, slow pitch their whole life, hit home runs all day.
Yeah,
on
they
us.
were
We got
like
beat by 20
they
every
were like,
time.
excuse me, a bunch of nerdy frat guys whose passion project is to write an original musical every year.
I played a lot of baseball growing up, but
No,
not
I know
enough.
you did. I know you did.
So in the 1950s, the salaries were about the same as the NBA in this other league, and some of the players who were even good wanted to just stay at their company because most players didn't want the uncertain contracts of a professional game.
Yeah, they wanted a steady paycheck.
Yeah. And instead of accepting that, they just, rejected the NBA offer. The table of team names from Wikipedia for this is kind of funny. It's just funny to see like what they name teams after and stuff. We got the Akron Goodyear Wingfoots. The Phillips
branding already.
Phillips 66ers. We got the Peoria Caterpillars from like the caterpillar of the plant. Fort Wayne General Electrics. The Buchanan Bakers. Love that. Houston Ada Oilers. The Oakland Bittners. Wichita Vickers. And the Cleveland Pipers. And I think a lot of the ones like Bittners and Vickers are just names of guys that owned the company.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just thought it was a kind of a funny little league.
Wow, that makes me feel better about like, now we're going to go to the Cheetos and Minute Maid replay of this kick.
Yeah.
This one kick.
So one cool thing that came out of this Pipers thing before it folded, Steinbrenner hired John McClendon, the first African-American professional basketball coach.
Nice.
On that team. So the Pipers won the 1961-62 ABL championship, which I guess is what the league name turned into. The league folded in 1962, and then Steinbrenner lost a bunch of money because he tried to get them to be in the NBA after that, and they didn't accept his bid.
I see.
So the Pipers died with that league. Another way in which Steinbrenner used his government subsidy bonus was to invest in something very dear to this show, Broadway. That's right. Steinbrenner was a Broadway producer from the late 60s through the 80s. And while he eventually stuck to sports, his gateway into theater was a friendship with someone who became a giant in the world of performing arts, James M. Niederlander.
Yes.
Andy, what do you know about Niederlander? Why is that name important?
Theater's named after him.
So he was a producer, and then he ended up getting a lot of theaters named after him and actually owning theaters all over the country.
I think, if I'm not mistaken,
there's one here.
There's one here in Chicago. There's definitely one in New York on Broadway. I don't remember what else, but it's one of those names that comes up all the time in like people who had a lot of money in the theater.
So he started by producing with Niederlander a short-lived play called 90 Day Mistress.
What if I was like, oh my God, that's my favorite play?
Niederlander went on to become one of the most prominent producers and owner-operators of live theaters in the country, while Steinbrenner invested in a mere 6 shows with him. So he invested in, here's the ones I could find, George M. Here's a notable Tony performance from that.
As if his stunning performance as the master of ceremonies in Cabaret wasn't triumph enough, he won the Tony for it, of course, and the Oscar.
Joel Grey?
In 1968, Joel Grey appeared in a musical called George M., which naturally was about the legendary George M. Cohan.
Joel Grey is so good.
When you're at the Waldorf, have a smile, charge it up to me. Mention my name every place you go, as round the town you roam. Wish you'd call on my gal, now remember, old pal, when you get back home. Give my regards to
this song.
Broadway.
Remember to Herald Square.
Oh, you know it.
Oh, who doesn't know this song?
I don't.
The gang at
42nd Street. God, I miss the days when musical theater was just like a character who has like an enormous piece of luggage with lots of stickers on it, and then they just have like a hat.
And that's the staging?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm here and I've just arrived.
I got this
somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. I have a piece of luggage and I'm pursuing a dream.
Here's another one. In 1970, he produced Applause.
Is it that we're living for?
She looks familiar, but I can't place who that is.
Nothing I know brings on the glow like sweet applause. You're thinking you're through.
This is so
that
70s.
nobody cares. And
outfits, I
suddenly
mean.
you hear it starting, and somehow you're in charge again, and it's a ball.
It kind of seems bad, even from that. So in 1974, he produced Seesaw.
My mom loves this show.
Traveling on a crazy seesaw. Love is up, down, as my life goes by. I'll find myself a guy for the seesaw.
There it is.
There it is. There's the
of
name.
show.
Comes up a bunch.
A new fella for the seesaw. There's gotta be 2 for the seesaw.
Seesaw.
There's got to be 2 for the seesaw. It doesn't
know,
work
I know.
otherwise. This is like right in the sweet spot of like my mom grew up really loving musical theater. And so this is like right in the sweet spot of like stuff she really liked. So we had the record of Seesaw at my house. Yeah.
That's crazy. In 1988, he produced his biggest flop, Legs Diamond. The reviews were unanimously negative, with particular disbelief at Peter Allen's attempts to play so totally against type as a suave Lothario.
Oh.
Frank Rich commented that the evening's most compelling drama was watching Allen figure out what to do with his hands. The failure of the musical was so total that it compelled the Niederlander organization to finally sell the beloved but flop-prone Mark Hellinger Theater to the Times Square Church, like a culty church, which still owns it to this day.
They were like, this physical space has to be cursed.
cursed.
There's a lot of superstition in theater. That is so funny. Frank Rich saying, I mean, the question of what to do with your hands is one that comes up a lot when people perform.
Right now, I don't know what I'm doing with.
You don't think that it's going to be a problem, and then you get on stage and you're like, how does a person,
Yeah.
what do I usually do with these?
So here's a little clip from Playbill, and this is Billy Rosenfield and Gary Gunas. Gunas executive produced Legs Diamond.
And it had highlights in the score that were fantastic. It had a lot of good bits.
So if you love me, let me see your knockers.
But we always knew it wasn't adding up, so we went into that.
That's the clip they chose to play.
Yeah.
I love that they were like, the show had some highlights. If you love me, let me see your knockers. What?
That's the highlight.
That's like a cutaway from 30 Rock. You know what I mean? Like, it's that bad
Yeah,
that you're
or
like,
Family Guy.
yeah, exactly. Peter's like, I don't know why nobody nominated me for the local theater awards.
Yeah.
My performance was great. If you love me, let me see your knockers.
That is a Family Guy bit. Okay. So finally, we get to the crown jewel of Steinbrenner's purchases, a baseball team. And it wasn't his hometown Cleveland franchise, but he had an opportunity to turn around a classic franchise, the New York Yankees.
The Damn Yankees, which is the title of a musical.
So the Yankees struggled under CBS. Yes, CBS Broadcasting Company owned the Yankees before Steinbrenner. From 1965 to 1972. And yeah, they struggled. Steinbrenner purchased the Yankees from CBS on January 3rd, 1973. Here's a little video from SNY about Steinbrenner buying the Yankees.
An investor group led by a little-known Cleveland shipbuilder named George Steinbrenner buys the Yankees from CBS for $10 million and one of the all-time steals in professional sports history.
Steinbrenner, he was going to give his fans, the most for their dollar. They bought the Yankees for $10 million.
They're worth like $4 billion now. You talk about Apple being a good investment. The Yankees are the greatest investment in the history of the world.
Yeah, so it was a steal, apparently, that he got off of CBS because they didn't want the Yankees. So at this point in our story, Steinbrenner has a shipping empire. He's finalizing the purchase of the Yankees. He's dabbling in the arts and mingling with Democrats in Washington to help grow his fortune. Some of his friends, like I mentioned, the Kennedys, we got Robert F. Kennedy. Steinbrenner was known to have supported Robert F. Kennedy in his 1968 campaign. He also knew Hubert Humphrey. He was familiar with Lyndon B. Johnson and supported his 1968 presidential campaign. But his friends warned him that this sort of connection to the Democratic Party might cause some issues for his shipping business with Nixon in the White House. Because he's going around New York giving money to a lot of prominent Democrats. So his friends warned him about that. And sure enough, in 1972, right around when Steinbrenner was buying the Yankees, Republicans blocked Amship's bid for repayment on a contract and imposed various fines, partly due to Steinbrenner's lobbying efforts and his ties to Democrats. So they were like, hey, we'll dock you with some government fines, essentially, or like,
yeah. Sounds like a plot of Succession that I wouldn't fully understand, but I'd be very invested in.
Yeah, I'm going to have you read a little clip from The Plain Dealer. This is an article from 1972, and just a little bit about Steinbrenner.
Steinbrenner, a Democrat, has raised millions of dollars for Democratic congressional candidates in recent years. Lately, however, he has also been seeking money for Republican candidates and is supporting President Nixon for re-election. Steinbrenner said he had retained Nixon's former law firm, which is based in New York, in 1969 or 1970 because a partner in the firm, Thomas W. Evans, was a classmate of his at Williams College. Evans last July was named Director of American Shipbuilding.
So in order to get on Nixon's good side, he hired an old college classmate, Thomas Evans, who had been Nixon's chief counsel in 1968 and his deputy finance chair at the time during the 1972 presidential election.
Steinbrenner's lost a little bit of credibility for me here.
Yeah, politics were different with the parties than they are now, but yeah, it's still.
Nixon's still a monster.
This guy introduced Steinbrenner, Thomas Evans, introduced Steinbrenner to the guy who he really needed to know if he wanted to make donations to Nixon without the whole world maybe knowing it. A guy named Herbert Kalmbach. And Kalmbach was Nixon's finance chair for his 1972 re-election campaign. So Steinbrenner asked Kalmbach how he could contribute to Nixon's re-election. And Kalmbach said that the best way to do it and not have the whole world know was to make contributions in small amounts through other people if possible. And Steinbrenner did do that and made multiple contributions totaling $75,000, disguising them through various methods and payment things.
This is so shady. He's like, I don't want people to know because like this, I'm known for like supporting Democrats. Nothing like that's happening today.
Yeah, no. So it turns out these contributions were illegal.
No.
The illegal contributions were part of a broader illegal campaign finance operation aimed at securing political favors and ensuring Nixon's reelection. And now I'm going to play a little clip about this.
And finally today, from our You Cannot Make It Up file, this weekend marks the 40th anniversary of the Watergate hearings, the investigation into the granddaddy of modern political scandal, skullduggery, leaks, lies, and Washington cover-ups. So, of course, it's our Face the Nation flashback.
I began by telling the president that there was a cancer growing on the presidency.
White House counsel John Dean blew the lid off the Watergate cover-up when he implicated Nixon and top aides, himself included, in his Senate testimony. During the hearings, he described Nixon's obsession with disarming political opponents.
There was also maintained what was called an enemies list, which was rather extensive and continually being updated.
Dean told the committee that Nixon's enemies were being audited by the Internal Revenue Service, a claim verified when Watergate special prosecutors subpoenaed White House audio tapes. Note to those who missed the point, didn't work then, won't work now. Someone always tells a reporter, and reporters protect their sources, which is what FBI official Mark Felt said on Face the Nation in 1976 when he talked about the importance of whistleblowers.
What I'm wondering is that whether you want to take credit at this time for helping unmask any of the Watergate cover-up.
No, I'm not Deep Throat, and the only thing I can say is that I wouldn't be ashamed to be, because I think whoever helped Woodward helped the country, no question about it.
What we later learned, of course, was that Mark Felt was Deep Throat, and he guided reporters Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein through the web of deceit that was Watergate, the scandal that brought down the president.
I was about to say before you started playing that clip, I was like, this isn't Watergate, is it?
Yep, it's Watergate, baby.
Oh my God.
And
wow.
as activities were scrutinized, guess whose name came up?
Steinbrenner.
George Steinbrenner. Federal investigators uncovered Steinbrenner's illegal contributions during a broader investigation of the Watergate scandal.
Who are these small donations that say they're coming from Liza Minnelli?
Yeah, there's a couple from Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah, what's going on?
It's not even alive.
Why is Carol Channing donating so much money to the Nixon campaign?
So Steinbrenner was charged with making illegal campaign contributions and obstruction of justice. Here's a little article from the Atlanta Constitution I'll have you read from April 6, 1974.
A federal grand jury Friday indicted the American Shipbuilding Company and its board chairman, George M. Steinbrenner III, on 16 counts of obstructing justice and contributing illegally to the 1972 campaign of President Nixon and other candidates. Steinbrenner, youthful millionaire owner and president of the New York Yankees, was also accused of hatching an elaborate plot of giving phony bonuses to quote-unquote trusted employees and coercing them not to tell FBI investigators. Steinbrenner, Jaworski said, not only set up the bogus bonus scheme, but destroyed all records and tried to conceal the plot by instituting a real bonus program after the election, quote, to camouflage the phony that already had been given.
So yeah, that's what he did. He wanted to contribute to Nixon, so he gave out fake bonuses to Yankees employees
and had them donate it
on his behalf. And then they were able to catch that because one of them went over a certain amount and it got checked.
One of them was like, I really want Nixon to win.
Yeah. Yep. So they found out that he was doing that. So as a result of his guilty plea, MLB Commissioner Bowie Kuhn suspended Steinbrenner from day-to-day operations of the Yankees for 2 years, starting in 1974. However, his suspension was shortened and he was reinstated in 1976.
What, for good behavior?
I guess. So despite the scandal, though, Steinbrenner's resilience and subsequent successes with the Yankees sort of overshadowed his Watergate involvement.
As they will. Sports is something I am noticing now that I'm paying more attention over the last several years. Sports washing is very real.
With everything, yeah.
With literally everything. Like, there is a bunch of cognitive dissonance when you like know something illegal is going on that has to do with like the sport that you're watching and wide-ranging set of issues, and then you're like watching it and you're like, no one's acknowledging it. That's weird.
And we're just
then,
done. Yeah.
And then after like 5 minutes, you're like, okay, whatever. Like,
yeah. So during his Yankees tenure, we're actually not going to focus on this for as long as other stuff. He was known for strict grooming policies, like no long hair, no beards, clean shaven. He was nicknamed the boss for his hands-on, controversial management style like this.
Men of this era were like so afraid of like, I don't know, hippies, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Just like the idea that there would be somebody
with long hair.
With long hair.
If you're one of those 60 Minutes viewers who's looking forward with dread to a week of World Series baseball games and are saying to yourself, why do I have to watch another sports story? Hold on. My Way is a 60 Minutes type sports story about a man who kicks up such a fuss fighting with his ball players, firing his managers, and taking on the sports writers that just to spend some time with New York Yankee owner George Steinbrenner is an experience. Do these guys like you, the ball players?
I don't. I don't really care. Isn't that funny? I don't really care, Ed, whether they like me. I'd like them to respect me, and sometimes that doesn't happen. What I try to do is instill a sense of discipline in my players, a mental toughness and a discipline. I don't want players going out there and being treated like heroes if they don't act like heroes.
When you put the pinstripes on, you're not just putting a baseball uniform on. You're wearing tradition and you're wearing pride. And you're going to wear it the right way.
Are you a graceful loser?
No, absolutely not. I bleed like those guys out there do, the fans. I mean, they hate to see it lose, and I hate to lose.
You take it personally?
Yes.
There's so much drama with this guy as an owner because he was super, as you said, ADD, like all over the place. He would make decisions. He would fire people one day, hire them the next day.
Yeah.
And one of the main punching bags of this was a manager named Billy Martin.
Okay.
He fired him multiple times and brought him back. The first one was in 1978 after like public feuding over the team and the direction of things and not winning and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And here's a little video from a Miller Lite ad from 1978 that like spoofs the well-known relationship.
You know, a lot of people think Billy and I argue all the time. Actually, we agree on just about everything, right, Bill?
Yeah, you betcha, George.
We even drink the same beer.
Light beer from Miller. Light's got a third less calories than the regular beer, and it's less filling.
And the best thing is it tastes so great.
No, George, the best thing is less filling.
No, Bill, it tastes great.
Less filling, George.
Billy, it tastes great.
Less filling, George.
Billy?
Yeah, George.
You're fired.
Oh, not again.
Light beer from Miller. Everything you always wanted in a beer, and less.
Wow. Good acting, actually.
Yeah, pretty good.
Probably because they actually hated each other.
So yeah, as an owner, he took advantage of free agency a lot and just spent a bunch of money because he had it. In baseball, I've mentioned this before, you can just kind of spend a lot more money than other sports. There's not as strict of caps.
Right.
So he signed high-profile players like Reggie Jackson, Catfish Hunter, and Goose Gossage.
I'm sorry. Catfish Hunter and Goose Gossage?
Yeah. These are two old baseball names.
They sound like extra characters from Top Gun.
They do. Yeah, so he was known for offering big contracts and bringing in star power to the team. This is where he sort of established the Yankees as the team that will just, in free agency, just go after everybody.
Yeah.
And just buy them all and try to do that.
I feel like overall, I've gathered that the Yankees are just known for like being a wealthy team who like does whatever the fuck they want. Yeah. Mm.
In 1979, inspired by the Philly Fanatic, they introduced a mascot, but it was discontinued right away because Steinbrenner didn't like it. And so here's a little video. We have to watch the whole thing because it's amazing. And it's by Pix News 11 in New York about this mascot.
A lot of people don't know the Yankees did have a mascot for a couple of years.
But Dandy was the first costumed mascot ever for the New York Yankees.
I didn't know about Dandy, and I lived in New York, and I didn't know about Dandy for many years.
In 1979, the team of Bonnie Erickson and Wade Harrison created a mascot for the Yankees.
He's rather pear-shaped. The mustache that we gave him, you can blow it out, so he could get in your face. There was motion to the hat, so it would spin.
They were very famous at the time. Bonnie had done a lot of Muppets, Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear.
Bonnie and Wade had recently got started in a new venture.
We had this very strange request to do a mascot. We first heard that the Phillies were coming because Jim Henson was their first stop, and he said, I don't do those kinds of things now, but Bonnie Erickson is the person that you should talk to.
I knew they had built the Philly Fanatic, and that was huge. And I think George Steinbrenner was interested in creating some sort of family entertainment.
We met George because we were invited up to make a presentation to him with the drawings. Wade and I went up there and met with him, showed him the designs, and we went into his office. He looked at it. I think he liked the sketch. He seemed to. He was very pleasant. I do remember how we found the name for Dandy. We had a poster made showing the character, which had entry forms in it for people to take, and they were put in places all over the city. And they picked what they called a unique name, Dandy. Go figure.
But it makes sense, Yankee Doodle Dandy, sure, okay.
Finally, they needed someone to bring Dandy to life.
And they called me and said, how would you like to try out for the mascot for the New York Yankees? And I was flabbergasted, you know. I said, yeah.
On June 27th, while the Yankees were out of town, the Dandy made his first appearance in the mostly empty stadium.
I get down to the field, and I'm coming up to Reggie Jackson and Goose Gossage. They looked at me, and they started laughing. And I hear Reggie Jackson say to Gossage, says, wait till Thurman gets a load of this guy. He looks just like him.
The mascot looked a lot like Thurman Munson, who was their catcher at the time.
2 weeks later in Seattle, an incident with the San Diego Chicken would change Dandy's future. The actor who played the San Diego Chicken was heading to the Kingdom to test out a new outfit.
And behind him says, hey, I'm going to the Kingdom too. Can I share a cab with you? And it turns out to be Ron Guidry.
The Yankee pitcher was excited to hear who he was sharing a cab with.
Guidry says, oh my gosh, I'm telling you, my wife is a big, huge fan of you. Can we do something tonight? She's watching the game back east. She'll get a real kick out of it. Why don't we do something? So the Chicken says, I do a little thing with the pitcher, I put a little hex on the ball and everything, and I do a little voodoo and stuff. And why don't we do it? He goes, great. And third inning comes around, but Piniella had just struck out, and he was miffed at himself. So here comes the Chicken to do his bit and the voodoo stuff. Piniella just lost his temper, and he said, right now he's coming out to do this thing? No, Piniella didn't know that Ron Guidry and the Chicken had done this thing in the back of the cab. They had it planned. So they get in this huge fight.
And George Steinbrenner said, those characters don't belong in the field. And we went, he just shot himself in the foot. Because in a couple of days, I think, we were going to introduce our character up there. We were at the game, we never even saw him ourselves. He was relegated to the top part of the stadium.
And then, tragedy struck.
What?
And unfortunately, Thurman Munson died in a plane crash.
Crashed on approach, 1,000 feet short of the runway at the Akron-Kenton Airport in Ohio.
It's just a shock, I just can't believe it.
And now the person on the team who he looked like dies tragically in a plane crash.
It was the beginning and the end for the Yankees mascot.
They kept him in the upper deck, and he was there for a couple of years, but no one remembers him because, again, he was stuck in the upper deck.
We decided that after 3 years, if they weren't going to be exploiting the personality and the character, that there wasn't much point. There was not any other team that we were going to have as a client that would be able to use it, so he was retired.
Crazy story, right?
Oh my God, I love this so much. I'm so glad that Bonnie Erickson came up because I learned fairly recently that she also did the Philly Fanatic. And like, obviously she said she had done stuff with, was it Sesame? The Muppets?
Muppets, yeah.
Yeah, the Muppets. She also did Big Shot, who I've talked about before. Big Shot is the former Sixers mascot who's also a furry blue guy.
Yeah.
I love that she said that the mascot was pear-shaped. Like the way she described the mascots, I was like, this woman is my idol. I'm obsessed with her. Mascots are pear-shaped. It's one of the things I love about them.
So
Dandy.
Yeah, that's going on. And
what a crazy story.
Now we fast forward to 1990. Steinbrenner was suspended again from baseball for life, which was later reduced after it was revealed that he paid a gambler and publicist named Howie Spira $40,000 to dig up negative info on one of his players, Dave Winfield. So Spira was like a PR guy who had relationships with Winfield, and he paid him sort of like behind the back. Spira was a self-proclaimed New York
PI?
gambler.
Oh.
So he's like just a guy that does odd, seedy jobs and things for people.
I see.
So Steinbrenner apparently hired him to look up dirt on one of his own players. This is the type of stuff Steinbrenner did. Steinbrenner was so in the drama of his players. He was in their lives. He was trying to tell them what to do.
It seems like he's kind of addicted to the drama a little bit. And also this goes along with like everything we've talked about whenever we do any baseball episode, is that people, from the players to the coaches to the managers to the whatever, people in baseball think like, as long as nobody finds out, we can do whatever we want, which is not a good precedent to set.
So I'm going to have you read a little article by a guy named Mike Seeley from Sports Handle. It's like a blog, I think. But he just kind of goes into what happened with Spira and Steinbrenner, and it's as good of a sort of recap as any.
Somehow, at some point, Spira secured a press pass to cover the Yankees as a stringer. That coverage consisted of schmoozing his way into Winfield's inner circle and becoming a publicist for the Sluggers' charitable foundation. Wow, this is a long con.
Yep.
That foundation, which was pretty close to a sham, led to litigation between Winfield and Steinbrenner, with the former claiming the latter didn't make good on his promise to contribute a certain dollar amount. Steinbrenner, who didn't like Winfield from jump, was now dead set on smearing him. Enter Spira, with mountains of gambling debt owed to Gotham's crime families. He offered to dish major dirt on Winfield in exchange for $150,000 from Steinbrenner. And dish he did, regaling the boss with, among other things, a tale of a fake death threat. Spira thought Steinbrenner would act fast with this sort of information, but the boss sat on it for a few years. And while he eventually forked over $40,000, Spira never got all that he asked for and was none too pleased about it. So nonplussed was Spira that he hectored Steinbrenner mercilessly to the point where he was ultimately convicted of extortion and served 2 years in prison. And after an MLB investigation, Steinbrenner was sidelined from the sport for approximately the same amount of time, clearing the way for Gene Michael to build the Bronx Bombers into the dynasty they'd become later that decade. Steinbrenner being Steinbrenner, he fired Michael shortly after being reinstated. Oh my God.
And then here is a little actual news article.
The moral of the story is don't mess with George Steinbrenner. Howie Spira, a self-described gambler, was arrested Friday after a federal grand jury in Tampa, Florida, indicted him for allegedly trying to extort money from Steinbrenner, the New York Yankees owner. Spira, 30, who worked for the foundation operated by Yankees outfielder Dave Winfield, is expected to be arraigned today on an 8-count federal indictment. Spira is accused of taping telephone conversations he had with Steinbrenner and threatening to expose agreements he had allegedly had with Steinbrenner. Spira has said Steinbrenner paid him $40,000 to collect damaging information on Winfield's finances. The New York Daily News quoted Steinbrenner on Sunday as saying Spira demanded an additional $110,000. Well, it's not a cent over what he was promised.
Yeah.
So Steinbrenner just didn't like this Winfield guy who was a player and ended up, he didn't even like follow through with like using the information. And then I love that like the guy he was like using was like, hey, where's my money? And then he's like, you're gonna get in trouble for extortion.
Yeah. He just really like used his money to work him over there.
Yeah.
And then lastly, I'll have you read from the Battle Creek Inquirer in July of 1990, an article called Fans Rejoice, Steinbrenner Worse Than Rose.
I was about to say there's some overlaps with Pete Rose here. The cheers started behind third base box seats and grew louder as the news spread through the stands. Finally, it erupted into a 90-second standing ovation at Yankee Stadium. Owner George Steinbrenner was out. The guy got exactly what he deserved, Trevor Brickford of Westbury, New York said Monday night. That's what should happen to any owner that constantly makes decisions to hurt the club. Commissioner Fay Vincent, who we've talked about before, on Monday forced Steinbrenner to give up day-to-day control of the club for his association with self-described gambler.
They always say that.
I love that they were like,
gambler.
We're not just calling him a gambler. We're not being offensive.
He said it.
He says it. You ask him, what do you do? He says, I'm a gambler. Who also has a side PI business.
Yeah. And knows Dave Winfield.
So the owner paid him for information that would discredit Dave Winfield. Many fans did not like the way Steinbrenner hired and fired managers and criticized his own team in 18 years at the helm. I've been a Yankees fan since I was a little kid, and it really hurt me to see this team turned into a joke, said Frank Fedek of Monroe, Connecticut. Quote, he's ruined the morale of the team and the morale of the fans. I'm ready for a new owner. He's worse than Pete Rose. Pete Rose was only a manager, said Lori Waller of Farmingville, New York. Yankees players weren't so happy. The fans may have been cheering, but I wasn't, pitcher Dave Righetti said. It's sad. He really loved the idea of owning the Yankees, and now it's been taken away from him. It'll certainly be different not having him around here. Meanwhile, other owners mostly said Vincent did what he had to do. I applaud Mr. Vincent for the strength, intellect, and integrity he has shown since becoming commissioner, said Philadelphia Phillies president Bill Giles.
So the suspension was lifted in 1993. Allowing him to return to the Yankees. So during that time, he was still running the Yankees, probably.
Probably. I just think it's interesting. Like, the fans got so excited, and it's like, he's going to come back.
He owns them. Yeah, no one has this kind of money. So I was looking into all of this, and I typed in Howie Spira on YouTube to look for clips about the trial with Steinbrenner. And what I found was just the best thing ever. So Howie Spira has a YouTube channel.
Hi. I'm Howie Spira, and I'm back. You know me from the past. Dave Winfield's publicist, the guy who got George Steinbrenner thrown out of baseball, all the legalities that went with it. This is a sports show that's going to focus on the field activity. I'm going to try to stay away from who murdered who, DWIs, drugs, on the field.
It's the opposite of our show.
Yeah, pretty much.
When, how, in every sport. Except hockey. Nobody likes hockey. And I'm going to break it down. Honestly, I'm not going to worry about people's feelings. I'm not going to worry about the way they're going to react. I've had a passion for sports since I was in grammar school.
When is this?
9 years ago.
9 years ago. And did I see correctly that he only has 11 subscribers?
He only has 11 subs.
Oh my God.
He's got only a handful of videos. He tried to come back with a podcast as the guy who got George Steinbrenner thrown out of baseball, thinking people would like rally around Spira.
Howie, nobody remembers
No one remembers you. I'm sorry. Well, we do now, and our fans do.
The people that remember it don't consume podcasts.
And they don't want to listen to the guy who like extorted George Steinbrenner.
It's interesting that he's not working his most useful angle, which is like he was involved in interpersonal drama.
So he's like, I'm not touching it.
I don't want to touch interpersonal drama. It's just on the field stuff, which like most people, myself included, would be like, oh.
Yeah. Here's him ranting about the Jets because he's funny.
Here's the difference between real football teams and the New York Jets. Boom, 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 like old times. 7-0, 14-0, 14-3.
I love this man. I love this man so much. He's a hustler.
Yeah.
He just wants to do whatever. He just reminds me of like, I don't know, you're at some sort of like function and like someone's uncle is like in the corner holding court, has a beer, and is like, no. I'm going to tell you why everything you think about the New York Jets is wrong.
Yeah.
And they always provide their own sound effects. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom. It's like sort of like John Madden. Boom. So back to Steinbrenner. He led the Yankees to multiple World Series in 1977 and in 1978. And then he rebuilt the team throughout the 90s, leading to championships in 96, 98, 99, and 2000.
Wow.
So 98, 99, 2000, a 3-year run of winning the World Series every year.
Do we call that a three-peat or no?
We do call that a three-peat.
Okay.
He renovated Yankee Stadium throughout his time, multiple times. And yeah, he built the team into a super valuable franchise. He was known for his generosity and contributions like we saw with the arts. But he also supported a lot of education initiatives, scholarships, school programs, and donated a ton of money without telling anybody kind of thing.
Okay.
Like behind the scenes stuff.
That's nice.
And one of the biggest pop culture sort of impacts Steinbrenner made was through his portrayal on Seinfeld.
Somebody impersonated him on Seinfeld? Or he was himself on Seinfeld?
There's a story here.
Okay.
And for that, I'll go to an interview with Larry David on Rich Eisen.
This episode has everything.
We had Jerry on the show just a couple of weeks ago, Larry, and I asked him, how come Steinbrenner himself never appeared on Seinfeld? And he said Steinbrenner shot a scene, but it was so bad you cut it. Is that a true story?
True story, yeah.
What was so bad about it?
We brought him out, I think, for the last show of the 95 season. I'm not quite sure when it was, but he flew out on his private jet to do the show and flew back that day. And, okay, he did it. And then I go into editing, and I'm watching the show. And, oh, my God, he was so awful. He was so bad. You couldn't use it. It was much better from behind with my voice, than actually seeing the real guy doing it. I had to call him up and tell him he was cut.
Oh my God.
How did that go?
I called Yankee Stadium. I said, I want to talk to Mr. Steinbrenner. It's Larry David. He got on the phone. I said, Mrs. Steinbrenner, it's Larry David calling from the Seinfeld show. Yes, Larry, what is it? I said, I'm sorry to tell you this. He said, come on, you can tell me. I'm a big boy. I can take it.
But you slipped back in that voice.
Yeah,
it's like
right.
riding a
I
bike.
slipped right back in, right. And I said, I've been cut from the show. And I said, it's not your fault, but it's just, the scene wasn't working. And that was it.
How did he take it?
He was a big boy. He took it well.
So he told you how he was going to take it, and he actually took it well.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So wait, then Larry David just did his voice on the phone or something?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, he would always be facing backward. You just see the back of Steinbrenner.
Well, I was thinking it's about time for George's lunch.
Yes, it is. All right, let's see. What do I have today? Oh, darn it. It's ham and cheese again. And she forgot the fancy mustard. I told her I like that fancy mustard. You can put that fancy mustard on the shoe and it would taste pretty good to me. Oh, she made up for it with a cupcake, though. Hey, look at this. I got a new system of eating these things, George. I used to peel off the chocolate. Now I turn it upside down. I eat the cake first and save the frosting for the end. It's almost a dessert.
Yeah. So Steinbrenner is Larry David from behind.
That's really, really funny. And they got actual Steinbrenner and it didn't work.
Yeah, they wanted to use him. And Steinbrenner, his health began declining in the late 2000s, where he reduced his involvement of the Yankees. And he passed away in July 13th of 2010 at the age of 80. And that's pretty much my Steinbrenner episode.
Wow. What a drama king.
Yeah.
I kind of love it. He is an interesting guy. I mean, this comes up a lot in sports. I feel like there's these guys who have a ton of money. They want to own a sports team. Very Jerry Jones in that, for some reason, just being super rich and being in charge and owning it, isn't enough. And they have to have their hands in, absolutely everything.
They have to be the one who makes every decision, including the team, because they, want that pride.
I guarantee you, the same day right after he, kicked the organ player out, he probably went downstairs and was shove over, and then started making hot dogs and was this is how you make a hot dog.
Yeah. Seemed like that kind of guy.
Yeah. That story had everything. It had Larry David. It had pear-shaped mascots. Oh,
Yeah.
I loved it.
It had Watergate.
It had Watergate. It had, if you really love me, show me your knuckles.
Yeah, the worst Family Guy joke that didn't make the show.
Actually happened on stage on Broadway. Amazing.
We hope you enjoyed that. I had a lot of fun.
I had a lot of fun too, and it was not at all what I was expecting.
If you'd like to hear more episodes, bonus episodes, where we reverse course a little bit.
We do, although Jim did a lot of theater stuff today. Yes, so we do reversal episodes where I tell Jim about exciting theater stories. Those can be found over at our Patreon, patreon.com/SKDK pod. If you've been enjoying the podcast, feel free to leave a review.
Yeah, reviews, especially on Apple, help a lot.
They do.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for listening, and we'll see you next time.
We love you. Goodbye.
Bye.